Welcome back, racers, to the second round of the TSRS series here at one of my favorite tracks, Amarillo Karting Complex. I'm here today with my friend Caleb, bringing you the best live streaming of kart racing at Kart Chaser. My name is Adrian Vargas. I am very excited to be here due to my accident. I won't be able to race this weekend, but I am happy. Thanks for all the love and support that I've got from this amazing racing community. Make sure to follow my Instagram at adrian.vargas133.
Well, there you guys have it from Adrian Vargas joining me up in the booth there. Adrian, thank you for introing our live stream here today. It's a pleasure to have you with us for the second round here at Amarillo Kart Complex. I know we had the interview with you earlier this week. That just got released and posted on social media. But, you know, for the people at home that are watching this weekend, you know, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Kind of update them on, you know, how this whole process has been for you.
I'm doing really good. I'm hopping around on one leg, so being able to walk a little bit. Doing good. You know, not too much pain. Definitely not on the pain meds anymore.
That's good.
Everything's doing good, and I've been out the trailer a lot more, watching the races. So it's been fun here.
That's good. I mean, what have you seen so far this weekend? I know you wish you'd be out there, but you know, the racing I think this weekend has been good, right? Every time that we come here, we see some very good racing action. You actually raced here last year as well. You know, what has this track kind of shown you so far this weekend?
This track is a really different track. It's a big track. It's a fun track. It's a fast track. It's a lot of straightaway track.
To me, you know, you were talking about the straightaways, right? And to me, the back straightaway is one of the biggest ones, especially in like the 206 class that you were racing in, as well as in Mini Swift. But you know, we've seen a lot of that, I think, throughout the weekend, and we see, you know, a lot of passes made. And the infield section to me is super important because you have to set yourself up whenever you do get onto that back straightaway. You know, what's one of your favorite places to pass around here at Amarillo?
That's hard.
I would say like turn 8 to me is like one of the good ones. Turn 6, I think, also could be another one, right? Because
there's a lot of good passing corners.
Like this corner right here that's on our screen now, where we see some of the kid karters go. That like you have to set up that left-hander super good to try and be good on the brakes there. It seems like so. You know, is that a place where you'd pass? And then also this back section too.
I think that is my favorite place to pass at the long straightaway. At the end of the long straightaway. It is the easiest, you know, because on this straightaway here, you know, some people won't back off, and you'll be side pod to side pod while racing. Yeah, I do agree with you. That other straightaway, or the second corner.
Yeah,
like
so
the weird chicane kind of corner. So turn.
It'd be this one coming up here that we're seeing here. So you have, you know, turns 1 and 2. That's the first chicane in the section. Then you come down to turn number 3, which is this right here that we're seeing on our screen. And this is that little bit of a chicane that you were talking about because it's a super fast left. And then it's not too long before we get into the right-hander as well there. So it's, you know, it's kind of different whenever we do see passes like that. And, you know, I think you can surprise a lot of people through turn number 4 there, right?
Yeah, like, kind of like a dive bomb.
Yeah, so
dive bombs are fun, but the dive bombs are dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, they are fun, right? But sometimes you do have to kind of get your nose in there and try to make a little bit of a pass. And, you know, we've seen a lot of that, right? There's been a lot of separation in between the first couple of packs. But, you know, besides them, you know, we were talking about it in the interview a little bit yesterday, but you have a message for that you wanted to send to people, and, you know, for the people watching at home with us today, you know, what would you kind of like to tell them?
Oh, yeah, so my dad was telling me that a lot of people were scared to race. Like, some kids from my home track just heard about it, and they didn't want to come over here. Like, they literally missed out on here. And I don't want people to be scared of what happened to me because it was a freak accident, you know? It doesn't happen all the time. And how do I really say this? Like,
no, you're good. You're killing it right now, dude.
Like, I know I just said this. It doesn't really happen, and I don't really know how to like explain what happened.
I think you explained it well, right?
You know, kids. I know kids flip every now and then, and they get hurt. They don't actually get hurt like as bad as I did. We were on the straightaway. My sister just came in. But yeah, I don't want people to be scared of karting, and even if it's just like a race weekend.
Yeah.
Like, I want people to go out there and have fun, because it's karting, You don't want to go out there and be scared.
Yeah.
You want to go out there and push it,
Yeah, that's a very cool message that you send people. And I see the messages starting to come in from people at home. Happy to hear from you, and happy to see that you're okay and in such good spirits. How have you been keeping busy so far this weekend? We walked by your trailer, and you were having a whole game of Mario Kart in there and some Super Smash Bros. How's that been going for you this weekend?
Fun. Like I said, I was winning, so they don't play anymore. But it was fun. I still play with my sister. She's really competitive. Like, she gets upset. But, yeah, it's pretty fun. I like Smash Bros, though.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick commercial break here, Adrian, and then we'll be back in a little bit. We'll see you guys.
All the way up to the finish line. Who is it going to be? And it's Sean Perez who wins in Crescent.
Ty Fisher wins $1,000 in KA100 Junior.
Alex Stanfield played it perfectly here. Told him to wait. Stanfield wins the Duffy in 2024 for TV Karts.
Amarillo Kart Complex is now the official distributor for TV Kart in the continental U.S. Become a dealer today.
Champions aren't just born on the kart track. At SimShop, we deliver professional-grade simulators with the best performance-to-price ratio in the industry. Founded by racers who understand what you need, our SimMagic and Moza equipment is powerful enough for the pros, yet affordable for everyone. With unmatched customer support and a thriving community, we're your racing partner. Visit simshop.com today.
Let's go race.
Come on, man.
Florida Kart Racers, you asked for it and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
Welcome back here to Amarillo Kart Complex for the second round of the Texas Sprint Racing Series. Micro Swift out on the racetrack now, presented by Gallery Furniture. You guys heard from Adrian earlier on today. Still up here with me, Adrian. Out there now, what are you kind of telling your friends this weekend, right, that are racing here this weekend? Dude, we rehearsed this earlier on today, and you were telling them, right? They got to fit it in the pocket.
Yeah.
They got to push.
Oh, yeah. Especially, I was talking to Hayden Sampson about, like, pushing it because he's out there. He's doing really good, like, surprisingly good. Passes Wyatt just now. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't really talk to any of the micro Swifts. I talked to Hayden Sampson about pushing it in. He's doing really good. I saw Brody Stoffel out there. He did absolutely amazing in the micro Swift, like P1 and P1 in the 206.
Yeah, I mean, he's been super impressive, right?
Yeah.
You look back at the last 2 weeks that he's had. Brody's been racing nationally, and he's had a couple of good races as well. But a couple of your friends, right? You talked to Hayden. Wyatt is under y'all's 10 as well this weekend. What'd you guys do on the week? I saw you guys went to Paladuro Canyon earlier this week. What have you enjoyed about Amarillo this week?
We went to the the buggy ranch thing, like where you
Cadillac
spray paint.
Ranch,
Yeah,
yeah.
where you spray paint the cars. We did that. We spray painted the cars. I tried to find my spray paint thing from last thing, but I couldn't find it. But we did that for a little while. Yeah, and then we went to the Big Texan. That was cool.
Did you eat the 72-ounce steak or no?
No, but I saw somebody do it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They finished it or no?
Yeah, they did it. Somebody did it. And everybody was cheering him on. It was just like ripping it up. That was crazy. We also went to like a canyon place. I don't know what it was called.
Paladuro, yeah. Paladuro's not too far from here. That's
we went
about
there.
30 to 40 minutes away.
Yeah, and then we lost like half of the family because they went on a hike and we drove and we lost them.
That's not good.
Yeah. What do you think about this track?
Every year that we come here, to me, this track, it changes a lot, right? So, I was doing my rounds and talking to some of the drivers here this weekend, and they were saying this track feels a lot grippier than previous years. So even on the Friday practice, as we actually have an issue right now, Beckley Anderson is in the grass. But like I was saying, right? I mean, this track to me is one of the ones that has given us a lot of racing action, but it's been really grippy for one, right? Because of the temperature that's kind of getting on here, and even with racing into the night, whenever it does get colder, the track still seems to hold that grip. And yesterday people were trying tire pressures and whatever, but to me, this racetrack always races good. But what surprises me, I think, the most is that we've seen as many breakaways as we have, and I think that's because of where the races are starting. And then the corners, it's the infield, and people get spread out a whole lot. So that to me is one of the biggest things that I have seen so far about the racetrack. And to me it's super important to like get into the groove early of this race, and you can't afford to fight all too much because we have seen so many people break away from the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Have you seen, you've kind of seen that as well. You've been a part of races here. How hard are the starts around this place, especially since we're starting them over in turn number 3?
Did we start in turn number 3
I think,
time?
yeah, we started over there last time around turn 3.
It's a little scary, but you can't be scared. You gotta go in there. It's fun. It's going into the corners. Start number 3. It is really complicated because kids, it's racing. Kids won't back off. So you either gotta stay in to where they back off, or they're staying until you back off.
Yeah.
Somebody's gotta back off or something. Yeah. I have a question for you.
There you go.
Like, if you would pick anybody from the micro slip, like, who do you think has the highest chance of winning in between the top 3 right now?
Well, so
Brody Stoffel, Tyler Blackwood, and Tyler.
well, I don't really like to pick because I think that gives a lot of people bad luck. But I will tell you that some of these kids have been really impressive, right? I think Wyatt is one that's impressed me a lot in micro swift because of how far along he's come over the last year, and him and his dad working progressively to try and get faster. So Wyatt, to me, I think has a chance for a podium as well. Tyler as well has been really quick. He's been, he's had some really good starts. And again, like you said, Brody's been on a tear this weekend. So I think it's important for guys like Tyler and for Wyatt, if they do want to get closer to Brody, the starts. It's going to be all about the starts here today. But the 3 of them, either of those 3, they've been super impressive as well. I'll move down. Dusty Strayer has been another one of the little kiddos that's been super impressive. So, yeah, I mean, to me, whenever I do this often, but I never come into a race and like, that guy's going to win. I never pick somebody to win because anything can happen, right? And I usually think we used to do picks a lot on our podcast on Tuesday, and they would always go wrong. So ever since then, I stopped picking, right? Because I would always get them wrong. But this is the class that you were a part of, Mini Swift?
Yes, Mini Swift.
And you have a lot of people in this field. I see your name is still in there, and as well as Nayeli. What are you kind of telling her so far this weekend to try and find a little bit more pace?
So she is from last heat. She backed off, and I'm not going to blame her from the wreck that just happened. But I do want her to actually get in there and push it because it's racing, and racing is, it can be scary sometimes. But
Yeah.
you kind of don't want to let it get scary. You kind of just want to be in the moment, like when you just like feel with the cart,
Yeah.
You want to be one with the cart.
One of the terms that I use a lot, especially whenever we see drivers, race, is you need to drive with finesse, right? And that's all about, how good your kart is, how good you are with your hands, having smooth hands, especially at a place like this. It's there's a lot of turns, so to me, it's all about momentum at a place like this. So if you kind of get bogged down in a corner, then you're gonna be slow on the exit. Could be a lot of things as well, but. I'm gonna ask the same question to you. Who's impressed you so far in Mini Swift? Yesterday, Tanner Barsh was super fast with MSL. Colton Schigenberg was up there. I know Aston Wyatt, Liam Nachawati, and
I saw
a couple of those names.
Liam impressed me a lot. I saw Liam. So from the start, Tanner had a good start. Tanner had a great start, and he was up ahead. And then Liam just slowly closed it. And maybe if he would have stayed, and I'm not gonna say because I wasn't there. I wasn't in the car, so I don't know what really happens over there. If they were bumper to bumper, you just see the cars, But I really think Liam did really good. I was just looking at Liam and Tanner, so I didn't really see anybody else.
Even at the start of the weekend, I was hearing that a lot of people were chasing Liam. He was here testing last weekend, and everybody was kind of chasing him so far this weekend. And I know Tanner had issues as well earlier on. Aston got shuffled back throughout the race, but as well, Liam, he actually broke his wrist not long ago. Whenever we were at Speed Sports at the SCUSA Pro Tour, I saw you were out there as well running around that weekend. But he's back this weekend. He's wearing a kind of a wrist brace, so to see him back is super cool, right?
Yeah. Isn't this his first race after the?
Yeah, this is his first race. So he drove a little bit last weekend to kind of test things out, and then this weekend he's back, and he's shown some really good pace, right? He's been up there in the top two kind of all weekend with Cruise Racing Development. So he's shown really good pace as well. Colton, he's been overseas in Europe racing over there, and then now he's back here this weekend.
A lot of new kids. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
A lot of them.
There's a lot of kind of youngsters that are here as Tanner drops the tire into the grass. But Marcelo is as well one of the newer kiddos. He usually races with us across the national circuit, and he has done a couple TSRSs in the past. But he just moved up to Mini, only 8 years old. So he's shown some good pace so far this weekend. So it'll be good for him. And who else you kind of talked about? Liam, who else has caught your eye this weekend in Mini Swift?
That's a hard one because I wasn't really paying attention to it. I was just oh, look, Liam's closing the gap. So I don't know if it was in Mini Swift or 206, but Tyler Morwick, I think.
Yeah, that was in 206. That was in 206.
He started from last and finished, P4?
Yeah.
That was 206, though.
I mean, it's still good, right?
It's really good.
It's some of the same kids that race there. Another one in 206 for me was Drew Blem. Drew Blem was in last, too, and then he drove all the way up, almost a third, I think. I think he did get third, but he drove all the way up the field. But, yeah, Tyler is actually going to be in this race as well. He's currently sixth as far as timing goes. But, morning warm-up sessions, you've done this before, but, what are you kind of looking to get out of morning warm-up with just 5 minutes kind of time? What are you looking to get out of warm-up? Whenever you are out there on the racetrack and whenever you did race, what is something that you look for? What are you trying to get accustomed to during a warm-up session?
I try not to get stuck in lap traffic a lot, and I try to get to the top of the grid to see if I can stay in front of this kid for a little bit, it's fun. It's fun going in front of, even if it's Alex Chandler and I'm in front of him and he just literally passes me the next corner. It's fun to be in front of him for half a second. I try to see them kind of.
Yeah.
Don't know how to really.
I mean, that makes sense, right? But
I try to start in the front to see, how far I'll make it, No,
that's a perfect way to put it, right?
Because I really can't wait till the heat races.
yeah. I couldn't either, and I know we can't either, but we'll take a quick commercial break, Adrian. I thank you so much for joining us up here. What's the last little thing you want to tell people at home? It could be to have fun, to enjoy the racing, to follow you on Instagram, whatever you want.
Follow my Instagram at adrian.vargas133. And what else should
you want them to have fun this weekend?
Yes, have fun this weekend. don't be scared to drive. Like, get in there, you know?
That makes sense. Well, there you guys have it from Adrian Vargas. Thank you for joining us. Quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more.
Great interview there. Once again, having the opportunity to speak with Vargas as a result of what's been a busy weekend, but also a lot of support for that family and for the driver here this weekend. Practice is continuing on, meanwhile, as we are in the midst of our next grouping. It is KA100 juniors that are currently on the racetrack here in this one. Justin Prince now back with you here in the broadcast booth as we continue on with the session. So far, we've seen a lot of back and forth in terms of some of the battling, you can argue, in this class. Now, in this class, it was in KA100 junior competition yesterday. Tyrone Kemper Jr. picking up the win over David Ibarra by about a tenth of a second. Matthew Duquette was also up there in the top three. Nathan Goldseth and Easton Cox were amongst your top five for the first heat of the weekend for the class. Now the main thing to think about here is going to be, can these drivers be able to harness the tire pressures and be able to harness the speed once again? Kemper Jr. has been been a interesting topic point throughout the weekend. A lot of people supporting him and be able to chat with him throughout the social medias, including in the Discord for the series here this weekend. But he's amongst the top drivers so far in this practice session for the warm-up. So far with a 107.9 at the top of the board, looking comfortable in the one kart. Of note, Nicholas Bezo, who had some issues yesterday, also amongst the top five in this warm-up session. It's touched upon a bit. We'll have two different heats here this afternoon before we go night racing, or at least late evening racing, after the schedule was moved up 2 hours. It's touched upon throughout social media. So we'll be finishing up by about 10:30, 11 o'clock here today. And one of the main things was talking with my colleague Caleb, who just sat back down. But one of the main things that we expect by the nighttime is tire pressures, to make sure you're able to adapt to that. Going to be much hotter during the day, a lot hotter today compared to some of the other days, actually, compared to what we will see this evening. But we'll be battling for even longer distance, more than double the race distance.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. First of all, it was great talking to Adrian and hearing from him, and I actually just got corrected as well on another point. Tyrone Kemper Jr., 12 years old, so still very young. And again, we were talking about the changing conditions here this weekend, right? It's one of the biggest factors, I think, that we've seen so far. And today's been different than the rest of the days, right? You were talking about the schedule change, so we're racing a little bit earlier today. So when we'd be warming up to, when we should have been warming up today, that's when we're going to be racing. So tire pressures are going to drop down actually in this second heat race here on the schedule. So that's going to be one of the biggest changes here today. And, when we race into the night, a lot of people did that last session that we weren't live for, but they were doing, some testing to try and get to grips with everything that's been changing and all the factors that have been at play here this weekend. And as well, a lot of drivers have gone to work. We saw the DNF by Nico Orbezo yesterday. He had a motor explode on him and motor grenade pretty much, and he got one over from Trackside Karting Services on a P1 Engines machine here for this one, and it's showing pretty good here so far for him. He's currently fifth at the end of the morning warm-up session. Tyrone Kemper Jr., 12 years old. Thank you, Tyrone Kemper, for correcting me there. He's currently the fastest to Carson Berry, to Jackson Baldus, to Mason Berry. David Ibarra down in 8th. Nathan Golseth talked to Shaston Johnson last night as well. They had a carburation issue. So they were, working on that all race long, and they finally got it figured out with the help of Austin Garrison there as well. And they're going to round up in 7th. But even then, right, it's beautiful weather. It's honestly beautiful. You see the tractors are out here on the Saturday, doing their work over there. The windmills are blowing. And for us, we're rolling, right? And it's been a pleasure to bring you guys all the live coverage to your homes. Always been a pleasure. And as well, I want to give a huge shout out to the entire TSRS crew for, being on it and, adjusting the schedule where need be. So that was, to me, one of the super cool things to see about the weekend here, Justin.
Yeah, that was a point of discussion for the drivers. Safety was important for some of the competitors. We did also see a bit of a swap in terms of scheduling with KA Master and Shifter, it's worth noting. Hence why we're seeing the Masters next up in the rotation. They swap positions essentially for the entire day, but the Masters by tonight would be the 8-10 final. Then by 9 o'clock would be the Shifter. So that was one of the main things that did pop up in some of the discussion, to be able to help with the safety and to help with the visibility for some of those drivers that prefer to have a little more daylight to be able to make sure they hit their marks. So we'll have to wait and see how they perform. Some of those drivers just about ready to roll onto the racetrack, meanwhile, where yesterday it was pretty dominant for Mir up at the front of the field. By more than 5 seconds was the gap for the race lead. And the question's going to be, can that continue in terms of the trend to see the 477 continue to show some dominant pace?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about him, throughout the year and as well throughout the weekend, right? It's really a return of form for Miguel. Last year was an off year to his standards, missed out on the championship, but this year it's looking a lot better for him, and even here at this place in Amarillo, he's shown some really stellar pace so far throughout the weekend. So that's good to see from Miguel. And good to see him up at the front. And I know Alex Cruz, we saw him this morning at breakfast, and he was happy about the pace that Miguel was showing. They were happy about, the pace they had. Even speaking to Adrian yesterday, who, he was saying they were finding more speed. And even with the cooler track temperatures, it was still very, very grippy out there, Justin. And that's one of the biggest things I think that surprised me. Most of all, that, the track was as grippy as it was throughout the night session, and he said, we just found the pace. It's been hard to stay with the track because it's been changing so much throughout the day as it's gone on, and with the different temperatures, we're messing with tire pressure, and that's the biggest thing to me. I think that everybody was trying to figure out yesterday in that last session, especially going into today. Right, the main events are still pretty late. We have the dinner break, 2 heat races, so there's still a lot of racing action as well for those of you at home. This is our free coverage right now, and we hope to be seeing you guys as well for the heat races and the main event live streams. Only $9.99 a month. You can become a KC Premium member and watch all the racing action live from coast to coast. And even then, right, it's not just for this weekend. It's for the entire month. We go to the Stars Championship Series next month. The week after that, we're at Route 66. And then 2 weeks after that, we're at the United States Pro Kart Series. Even then, you can watch some KC grassroots racing action over in Indy, everywhere pretty much. But 1 minute mark going up in the air. We'll step aside for a second. We'll be right back with more.
Hey, what's up, Caleb?
What's up, Brandon?
You sound defeated. A long day at the office?
Yeah, got stuck at a cat food marketing meeting for like 3 hours. I don't know a thing about cat food, and I don't even work in marketing. And then I got sent on a coffee run like I was some sort of intern. Then at the end of the day, when I want to go get gas, I just realized everything is so darn expensive nowadays, man.
Yeah, you got that right.
Like, do you have any idea how much we're spending on Netflix?
That's like $20 a month.
Do you know how much we're spending on cable?
That's like $50 a month.
But you know what isn't expensive?
Tell me.
Kart Chaser Premium. For only $9.99 a month, you can watch all the American karting action live from coast to coast. Subscribe and become a member today. Okay, Masters rolling on onto the racetrack now. A couple of other drivers that we were talking about before on the other side of the commercial break. We talked about Miguel Mir, obviously had great pace. Brent Harper's another one that was impressive over at Speed Sports Racing Park for the opening round, the opening weekend, and he showed good pace yesterday, just couldn't get himself up inside of the top 3. Or I'm mistaken, actually. He was up in second yesterday, Justin, and the same goes for Daniel Howie, who finished third, and a home race weekend for Daniel this weekend with TB Kart USA as well. A couple other drivers have been impressive. Janae Din, we talked about him a little bit yesterday, putting himself in top 10 contention here this weekend.
Yeah, Din's looked pretty solid so far. Was amongst some of the drivers in the battle pack that popped up with Shane Burkett as well in that grouping, and was amongst those that held back Howie for a little while in terms of some of the fighting. So some of these drivers have looked fairly comfortable when it comes to this racetrack and fairly comfortable with the respective karts here. It's about today, I think, for a lot of these teams, what can they do to find that little extra bit more to be able to improve on, okay, can I get higher than a 7th, a 6th, a 5th, and be able to join the podium conversation to help out with those points and to be able to position yourself with the metric, you would have to think, for the final later on in the day, because the heat's going to be so important to make sure you consistently get good finishing position to be able to get a chance for the final to then pounce for positions for the big points later on today.
Yeah, as well, last night when I was making my rounds around the paddock, spoke to a couple of other drivers, talked to the likes of Pierce Baldus, who said he just needed a little bit more, whether it was setup-wise, motor-wise, to get up there and really take the fight to Miguel Mir, right? If you look back at last year, Baldus, your reigning champ here in KA Masters, and for him now this weekend, it seems like this warm-up session has been good, but you're seeing it on the timing charts, right? Mir still has that upper hand, and that's at about 0.7 of a second. So he's talking to him, yesterday at night, he said, I've never felt better. I've never felt more confident in a race weekend than I have this weekend. And to me, that's showing, right? It says a lot whenever you're, feeling good outside of the racetrack to really show it whenever you are on the tarmac. But here we have one driver off. That's the 436 Crosslink livery. That's off of the racetrack there. That seems to be Mosey. John Mosey, that's out. And we were talking about Janae Din earlier, the 433 Cruise Racing development driver. He's out of this session early as well.
Unfortunate for them, to say the very least, and we'll have to see if they're going to be able to fix whatever caused them to have to pull off quickly, because the turnaround today is going to be pretty quick between here and the heat race for this class, about an hour, hour and a half or so.
Oh,
more
lost
drivers.
Lost the tire there. That's Mosey's kart, the 436. Lost the tire. It looked like just wasn't tight, or maybe snapped the hub. Don't have a real good angle of it, but unfortunate there for Mosey. I believe he was inside of the top 10 yesterday. So that's an early into his warm-up session. That's unfortunate as well, right? But good thing that it happened in a warm-up session and not a heat race.
Yeah, this is why we do warm-up, right? It's not quite as simple as just send them on out and hope for the best. No, you never know what's going to end up happening in the course of a run, and it's good at least to get the warm-up, to get some final data down, but better yet, to make sure there's nothing wrong mechanically with your respective car, and nothing like that happens during the race, so you know what to expect. So it's, in a lot of cases here, about making sure you go through that checklist to make sure you're ready to go for the race.
Checkered flag in the air. Couple of movers. Kogan Wright gets himself into the top 5. Pierce Baldus showing some good pace here late in that warm-up session. Chopped down his gap to 0.3 in between himself and Miguel Mir to close this one out. But pickup getting set to come your way. We'll step aside. More warm-up action coming your way with 206 Senior.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200? I'm tired of all this branding business, okay? Branding this, branding that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats, they got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Who the f is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney, Turney in the dirt.
If you want beautiful, solid wood, made in America dining room furniture, come out and see the new selection of beautiful dining room tables, chairs at Gallery Furniture, and best of all, buy this beautiful, oh so comfortable, made in America dining room furniture, tables, chairs, servers. Gallery Furniture delivers free to your area home in 3 or 4 hours tonight. Make family members on your beautiful new dining room table and chairs. Buy it today. New arrivals, Gallery Furniture delivers free in 3 or 4 hours to your home today.
Florida Kart Racers, you asked for it and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLPC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
.206 senior on grid, getting set to hit the racetrack here in a couple of moments. Trackside Karting Services and Tim Lowball swept the senior classes yesterday with 206 senior and KA 100 senior. Landon Skinner and KA Reagan Seville in 206, and we saw a couple of movers as well throughout that one. Kelvin Zing was up there, finished second. Jacob Oliver, it looks like, again, was third. So that's a good finish there for the GFC boys. As well, further back, Samuel Young was super impressive yesterday, putting himself up to fourth. Talked to Gunnar Ray last night as well with his camp with Rafael Kraus, and you know, to me, I was walking up expecting to see kind of a group of guys, a group of older guys, right, with mechanics and their dads, but it's just a group of 4 guys, the oldest one being 21, 19, 18, 20, and it's just the 4 of them. Just the 4 of them. They packed up a trailer, came down to Amarillo from Arizona, and they're racing, having a good time, you know, spending time together as buddies. And I was joking around and telling them, right, like, I got to do the same thing with my friends, travel the world. But, you know, for you guys, like, it's cool to come out here, just pack a trailer, come to the racetrack, and enjoy it, right? So it's good to have Gunnar and Rafael and, you know, and company here with us here this weekend, just, you know, showing what it's like to you know, enjoy it. And this is what KC Grassroots is all about, right? You know, packing up a trailer, coming out here racing, and having a good time.
Yeah, it's about being able to grow and be able to have fun with your competitors and be able to showcase what you can do at a larger scale here in Texas. Of course, everything's bigger in Texas. A lot of opportunity you can perform at in the state as well in terms of the series, absolutely. But I was trying to get to the point of, for many of these drivers, it's about fun. It's about being able to have that sense of community, that sense of camaraderie. And we were talking about this last night where if you think to the social media platforms like Facebook, Texas itself has some of the largest, if not one of the largest contingencies for karting communities in general, of those who just want to get involved in karting.
We were talking about it yesterday, right? Of the Texas karting community on Facebook, and to me, to my knowledge, it's the biggest karting community on Facebook that we've seen all around the country. So that is one of the things that has shows that the community here, and it shows why. TSRS is the biggest regional racing series in the entire nation. And here you have it, right? These 3-4 guys that are right here, aside from Jensen Harrow, but, packing up the trailer, coming out here to race, having a good time on a couple of the guys on VLRs, one on a Coyote, and for Gunner on a Croc Promotion machine. Said he had an old beat-up OTK. It snapped at the waist, got a good deal on the Croc, and he was like, that's, I got what I got, and I got to make it fast, and he's shown that, right? Put it on the pool. Going to start on the pool as well later on today. But for now, as well, a couple of the other big storylines spent this morning talking to Tim Lowball and his camp regarding, Reagan Seville, Jacob Oliver, and as many of you guys can tell, right, they have those KG front fairings, the fairings that are, new this year. But the nose cones are a lot different. They're a older model than what we have seen in the past, and he says that's just better on air. They did back-to-back testing at Speed Sports Racing Park, seeing what was faster, and for them it was those, the older version of nose cones. And he's like, we have better miles per hour, we have, better speed on the straightaways, and Jacob Oliver actually just made the switch today as well. So, you give and take, and they're as well, building a prototype chassis this weekend. So that's a bunch of cool stuff that to the development of their four-cycle side of things with Tim Lowball, Reagan Seville. They've been doing a whole lot of testing here throughout the offseason.
And that testing's so critical to be able to find every little bit of speed right, and it's so important to be able to find that fine-tuning. That's why some of that discussion is so critical in terms of executing the game plan of finding what's fast and what isn't fast, and having the time to be able to do that takes a fair amount of resources, absolutely. For a lot of drivers, it's about having fun, but in a lot of cases, it's about also finding that extra little bit of speed to be able to then take that speed to the top level all across the nation.
Yeah, and I mean, those are two drivers. I think Jacob, not so much, but for Reagan, right, he goes over to Cup Karts North America and tries to compete with the best in the nation, in four-cycle competition. So they'll do that. Another driver that's been impressive, Jensen Harrow, has been one of the ones that has, impressed me a lot this year, especially. He's come along quite nicely after switching over to his MGM Espionage chassis. I know Paul and April Rice were over at Speed Sports Racing Park for the opening round. So for them, they were enjoying that a little bit, being out there with us. Dolian, one of the drivers that I was speaking to yesterday, as well as the other lime green VLR machine of Matthew, I believe. Another one of the drivers, Matthew Ruth, indeed, another one of the drivers that was that we were speaking to yesterday. But there you see those different front nose cones, and that's all to the development that they've done on their four-cycle package. And you see the switch over from the standard one that we saw yesterday on Oliver's kart to this older model that they switched to. And it's been working out nicely for them in the warm-up session, right? The two of them, given they have really good track position, pushing each other along, but they're second and third right now, and the two of them had a really good drive through the field as well to put themselves in good position. Then you have a little switch in between the two. But for Oliver, again, you look back at the experience he's had so far through the year, started with the AR Academy, really broke through at the last round when we ran Speed Sports Racing Park backwards. Himself and his teammate at the time, Bryce Frank, were able to pull away from the field and almost got a maiden regional race victory there for Oliver, but finished second. And again, this year and last year was full of bad luck for Jacob, unfortunately. This year he's come out strong, come out to compete, and he's shown that, right? And for Reagan as well, this rookie, coming out in your first race and winning the opening round at NOLA Motorsports Park and winning a couple of other races as well, just fell short to the championship to Frank. And again, the AR Academy boys have been rolling so far this weekend. Chuck Jensen as well, a name that we haven't said all too much, goes quickest in the session here in the warm-up, a 1:15.932 for Chuck Jensen. That's a driver as well who had a really good pace out in Kart Moto. Last year drove almost from last all the way up to the front of the field on a gamble, right? Put it on slicks in mixed conditions, and he got it done. But that's it for 206 senior. Rafael Cross getting himself up to third. Jackson Young, second year in the senior category. He's up to second, as well as a couple of others. Matthew Ruth making an impression here in the top 10. Jeff Dolian, Kelvin Zing, Chambers, and more. Bamru, Kilgo, McLeod. For Kilgo as well, I mean, yesterday he had bad luck. Justin got shuffled down the order. I believe, speaking to him last night, just got involved in a wreck, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was one of the drivers that we've seen off the racetrack with some of the chaos that built up in the heart of the pack, but you can get that when you have such a large field around this racetrack where there's layers upon layers of packs. And if you make one mistake in said pack or leave the opportunity open for drivers to be able to dive on through, they'll take advantage, or you end up seeing attrition build up here at a track like this.
Shifter coming out next, and yesterday Billy Musgrave put on a clinic, just like he was putting on his demos throughout the weekend. We saw that 2 days ago at noon. A couple of drivers went out there on the shifter package, tested some stuff out. Our very own Riley Can as well was out there on the racetrack, saying how difficult it was to go fast on a shifter around Amarillo Kart Complex. But, Billy's made it look easy. And, speaking to him this morning, he said, to me, the driver who impressed me the most in this class was 14-year-old John Paul Mokori, who was up in a third, but I think they went too high on tire pressure. So I think tire management isn't going to fall into effect for John Paul. Unfortunately, that Burrell Art machine was quick, made his debut at the SCUSA Pro Tour in Pro Racing Action. You see Billy going to wait for John Paul here, but he said you gave a lot of credit to the young kid, gave a lot of credit to the rookie, right? He said he was impressive, and he showed it yesterday. His starts were on point, and his driving as well. Billy was very, very impressed, and coming from a driver of Billy's experience and, Billy's accolades, that's definitely a great learning experience for this young kid.
Huge opportunity to be able to learn, absolutely, especially when you get praised by one of the best in the world. It kind of really gives you a confidence boost, and it gives you an opportunity to be able to potentially build a bridge to the future with said driver, to be able to see get taken under the wing down the line. See right now them just working together in this pack right now, as Musgrave showing why his speed's down there. You can see how much the corner exit speed has been prevailing for him throughout the weekend. Just has a lot of boost coming out of that factory car, coming off the corner exit to be able to pull away. That's what really helped him pull away 3 seconds yesterday.
Yeah, and even then, right, for young kids like John Paul that are moving in a shifter early, out of 206 and getting that experience, that's all due to the guy that's, driving in front of him, right? Billy's pushed his package, has, made it affordable for people back in California and pushed it in every way that he can, and that's, made, other people like you and Jeffrey for bringing guys like Aiden Rudolph, who was in KA Senior all last year and has really been in KA Senior for quite some time, to move up to the shifter package because of the demand, because of how big it was last year at the SCUSA Pro Tour. And you see it, come back to the Tech Spin Racing Series here this year and, be one of the packages that they've pushed so far this year, and it shows to the work. Nick Bull as well with them. IMSA driver Noah Zars making the switch over to CRG as well this year. Still with Greg Bell and Leading Edge Motorsports on the engine package, as well Derek Proctor, right, coming out here to race in shifter categories against some of the best in the nation. He's gotten, he's dipped his toes in the SCUSA Pro Tour as well recently. So a good number of shifters, right? Good to see this class is as healthy as can be, Justin.
Yeah, extremely healthy in terms of some of the output. While the field size may be smaller this weekend, there's still a lot of talent in said field that showcased itself so far. And knowing what we've said too, you have a lot of drivers that have developed outside the platform of karting that are looking to just be able to cross over here, like the 33, to be able to execute and just be able to have a bit of fun during the off weekends when they aren't in the sports car maybe.
Yeah, so that's Good to see, you know, a lot of drivers coming out here, racing, staying fit, and, you know, learning a little bit here this weekend as the CRG boys still close together on the racetrack. Nobody quicker than Billy at the moment. Still in the 59.9s. He said that's the lap time that he's been setting time after time and getting valuable information as well before he goes to Newcastle Motorsports Park next weekend for the Stars Championship Series, as well for the SCUSA Pro Tour whenever we finish off the Pro Tour there, round number 3 for the Pro Shifter category. He said, this is perfect testing for me this weekend. It's been grippy, and you know, this has given us the chance to test everything that we need with our chassis, and the same goes for Jake French, who's helping the development of that 2-cycle chassis for factory karts based out of Phoenix, Arizona now.
Yeah, right now looking like this session still being controlled overall by Musgrave in general, by the way, by 0.6 of a second. Expecting drivers like Rudolph to step it up a fair bit, knowing what we should see in terms of pace today. Now Corey able to go up to second in the warm-up session, looking like falling behind Musgrave, paying off for that 60 camp.
Yeah, good lap there out of John Paul to get himself up to second with a checkered flag in the air. Again, tire conservation is going to be the name of the game here in Shifter. Billy talked about it earlier this morning with me, and he said you got to save it. You only get one set of tires here this weekend, and you got to make it count. So for John Paul, again, hoping that he can nurse that tire to the end. Again, did hear that he went high on tire pressures, and they may have just overcooked the tires. So Billy was saying, I don't know if he's going to have the same speed he had in heat race number 1 here later on today, but we'll see how it goes for them. Coming up next, more warm-up action coming your way again. Don't miss out on the heat racing action and the main event action later on today. Become a KZ Premium member today for only $9.99 a month. We'll be right back with more.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
.206 Cadet out onto the racetrack now, presented by Speed Concepts Racing. Yesterday on the pole, it was Aston Wyatt, but couldn't even start the race after Yomi Vargas, unfortunately, went out onto the racetrack with no brakes. A brake failure for them, and she just couldn't slow down. Went over the top of Aston Wyatt, ended both of their races early yesterday. And, you know, speaking with Sean Wyatt, you know, they were spinning Yomi's axle and, you know, just nothing, no engagement out of the brake pads, and, you know, spoke to her family here this morning, and they were saying, you know, just, just I guess a mechanical mistake on their part, and unfortunate, really, because she showed really, really good pace yesterday. But the kid who was able to get it done, he went 2 for 2 on the day yesterday. Brody Stoffel out there on the racetrack. They made a change overnight. Phil Pignataro spoke to his dad, Rich, as well, and Ewan, to make a change overnight to get that thing a little bit closer up to the front. Again, they said they got a gift and a half in the heat race, but they need a little bit more to be competitive here today, and let's hope they found that. For other drivers like Tyler Moraviec, we saw him drive through the field yesterday. Justin got himself up inside of the top 5, I believe, top 5 if I'm not mistaken. Got himself into the top 5 as well for Drew Blem, who went up to 3rd after starting last yesterday. So a couple of kiddos racing their way to the front, and for Tyler, it's going to be the same case here for heat race number 2, heat race number 3. They didn't make it out in qualifying in time, and going to have to work his way through the field again. And a really good drive. You heard from Adrian Vargas this morning, said that Tyler impressed him as well as Drew.
Yeah, so far they've looked very good in terms of pace, in terms of the 275 in particular, because remember, 275 had to come essentially from the rear/mid pack to be able to get a top 5. Now the question is going to be, can Tyler replicate that again today? Easier said than done, because remember, you have that position set up from the qualifying from yesterday for those heat races. So it's going to be where every single heat for Tyler in particular is going to be having a scratch and claw for every possible position on the racetrack. Already top 5 in pace here today in the warm-up.
Yeah, good pace out of Drew Blem here in the warm-up. Aston Wyatt, Brody Stoffel, Moraviec, Stiles, Sampson, Haswell, Short, White, and Rodriguez, your top 10 in 206 Cadet. If many of you guys notice, a little bit of a change in the schedule. You saw a change in between Master and Shifter. So Junior coming up next, and I think, what's the class after 206 Junior here, Justin?
That's KA 100 Senior after 206 Junior still.
So, like we were talking about earlier, right, a schedule change and a quick turnaround for the drivers doing double duty. The likes of Rudolph going to do double duty here with us this weekend in Shifter and in KA Senior. So 2 sessions of rest. Gets himself ready for the warm-up session in KA Senior. You see those drivers start to file into the back of the grid there to get lined up. But 206 Junior, class that provided some good racing action yesterday, Justin. We saw the likes of Paloya up there at the front. The same goes for Sawyer Chambers. We talked about the rookie who was super impressive out at Speed Sports. He's been impressive this weekend as well. A couple of others, Dean Guerrier was able to get himself in a good spot after getting shuffled back at the start. He finished 2nd at the end of it. Francisco Reyes finished 4th. We saw him lacking a little bit of pace.
Yeah, we'll have to see what we have in store here today for a lot of these drivers, especially since the top 3 were able to run away by 4 seconds, remember, was that interval between those spots. So obviously things could go differently here today in the heat races, especially with it being more so in the sunshine. Those races that took place for Heat 1 were more so when the lights were starting to turn around on the racetrack, and it started to get darker and darker and darker. Now, you have the sun beaming down on the racetrack. Going to be a lot more different for those tires. Going to be critical to make sure you have the right pressures set to go for here with the hotter conditions.
Yeah, we'll see. And again, last night, a lot of these drivers got a good little gauge in the last practice, see where they can go better, what they can improve. The 330, Brandon Green on a home weekend for TB Kart USA, leading this field out. And you see them already going side by side here in this warm-up session, trying to figure out whatever they can. That's a 316 there, Levi Meter on the CRG machine. Not sure if he's under MSO Racing or GRC or Reed Motorsports, even a huge contingent for the CRG chassis. As well for Paloya, who's under Santana Racing Company with John Paul Mokuri. So the two of them working closely together. Very close in age in between the two. So who knows? We might see Paloya and Shifter maybe next year, 2 years from now, on what's been a good progression for him as well. Very new to the karting scene, and he's shown pace super early on. The same goes for Brandon Green. We were talking about him a lot last year. this year he's been impressive, putting himself in good spots. Edwards as well, racing under the TB Kart camp this weekend. And there you go, some changes up at the front. Ava Blem took a couple of victories last year. She has good pace so far, pitted with Sawyer Chambers here this weekend. Mia Johnson with GRC, the 333, showed some good pace early on.
Yeah, looking solid in the warm-up session still. It's going to be important to see where the times line up by the time the tire pressures really kick up to gear and be able to speed up these tire pressures. Seen times move up by 1 second at least once you're able to get going fully at speed with these karts here this weekend, I've noticed on the timing sheets. So we'll see where a lot of these times really shuffle. Some of the team members, like the TB karts, just working together to see what they can do to be able to tandem, see what they can do in the pack maybe once they get racing together here later on the next little bit.
Justin, talking about yesterday, right, in seeing the racing that we did see yesterday, you know, what caught your attention the most? It seemed like, you know, it was give or take whenever we had classes that would spread out, and other classes where at the starts it was quite close. But, you know, overall, what'd you kind of take out of what we saw yesterday in heat race number 1?
In terms of this class, you mean, or in general?
In general.
Well, in general, it was dependent on class, I will say, but it was that for many of the drivers, they were able to set a strong pace down and get into rhythm to be able to work within their respective packs to then move ahead for position on the racetrack. In some of the other classes, those packs ended up being solo grouping, so to speak, on their own, which is not a pack, obviously, but it was for many of these drivers, once they got into their battle packs, they usually had a hard time being able to scratch and claw their way to the next battle pack, and that's one of the main things I'm going to be keeping an eye on today as a result is who's going to be able to improve to be able to break their way out of their respective cluster of karts to be able to join the next group, and then the next group, and then the top step of drivers for race wins here today.
Yeah, very good point, right? So we're going to see a lot of changes as well throughout the day, and you know, where we can improve, where drivers can improve as well with the checkered flag in the air now. For 206 Junior TB Kart USA, Ava Blem. Good pace in a warm-up. Sawyer Chambers, Levi Meter, Rodrigo Paloya, Dean Gurier, your top 5. KA Senior coming up next. We'll be right back on the other side of this commercial break.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Engines are fired down on the grid. K.A. Senior getting set to hit the racetrack. Presented by Kart CRG USA. For those of you at home joining us here for the warm-up sessions, again, remember we're switching over to our members stream after this session when we start heat racing action at about 1:20 p.m. local time, 2:20 p.m. Eastern time. So don't forget, become a KCP member, only $9.99 a month. You can watch all the racing action live here with us. 2 heat races, heat race number 2, heat race number 3 consecutively back-to-back. Then we hit the dinner break at 5:40, 6:40 Eastern time. So don't forget, join with us as well. A quick reminder for those of you here in the paddock, for our raffle winners, the 934 of Ian Howell with a 1 free fuel credit. For the 97 of Hollis as well, a 1 free entry credit. For Clayton Stiles, a 1 free tire credit. For Chambers, Josie, that is, a 1 free entry credit. And Jake Faulkner, a 1 free tire credit as well. All credits are in Race Select for you guys to use for any future events this year only. So don't forget, and make sure you claim that as well here today, Justin.
Hey, those credits go a long way to be able to help pay for your season, do they not?
Yeah.
Especially since tires and fuel can be expensive when you add it up race to race and through the whole season.
Agreed. So, again, it's good to see that TSR is giving back with raffles. It looks like Peyton with some sort of carburation issue. He's looking down at the motor, not sure what it was there for Phillips, but had a good pace yesterday to put himself within a good spot. Fell off just a little bit compared to the top 2. And showed good pace there, Justin, yesterday. Didn't get the chance to speak with him, but, you know, given the bad luck that Peyton's had so far this year, you talk about the first round over at Speed Sports Racing Park. Very good showing so far this weekend. The same goes for Jake French, right? Was really good in the rain, and this weekend he's starting to show some good pace. Spoke to him and Billy, just looking for a little bit more power, but the kart setup is starting to feel a lot better. He said he was up on 2 wheels yesterday in the morning for the warm-up session, and they got that settled. They got that fixed. So for Jake, looks pretty racy, looks pretty sporty here as gets on the side there of Alfred Alvarez El Castillo.
A little bit too racy there, to say the very least, of that part of the practice session. But French, amongst those who ended in the grass himself during the heat race, going to be looking for a lot more of a cleaner run, I think, here today. But one thing I'm also going to be keeping an eye on is for, in the case of Phillips in particular, he was amongst those second yesterday. It was the battle of trying to keep up with drivers like Skinner, because Phillips, before making the move on Jose Carlos Hernandez, seemed to be just holding on with the draft. And I think today it's not going to be as simple as just get the draft and just cap the straightaways, carry you forward. To be able to make passes, you have to be able to get the grip down and the speed built up for the corners too. To be able to drive along side by side, and then don't put yourself in a position where you lose 3-4 kart lengths in a corner or a complex of corners to then have to draft up to gain that 3 kart lengths back. You put yourself in a position where you're able to maintain in the corners while also still having some draft effect. It will be a lot more beneficial to you, and I think it's going to be where some of the top drivers today in these races and in all the classes in general are going to really shine.
I think we saw that yesterday, right? For Landon Skinner, he had really, really good pace there, Justin, yesterday, and you know, showed that, you know, in a sophomore season, learned a whole lot last year and had really good pace, and this year really coming into his own. Spoke to him, he said, you know, the kart feels great, everything feels good, the motor's, you know, on fire, and you know, they're really showing that here this weekend. And for Vasquez Jr. as well, he was trying, you know, all sorts of things yesterday to try and go better. And, you know, at one point he said, I just have to get a good start. It's all about the starts here, you know, and the biggest thing he told me this morning was, you know, yesterday I felt like I had the pace to be up there, but I just couldn't do anything because of the way the start played out. Everybody pulled away that was inside of the top 3, and I was kind of just left to dry, right? No draft, really trying to give it everything I had, and you know, that was it. The best I could do was 4th yesterday, and for today, for him, it's all about getting a good start for Jesus Vasquez Jr. as well, sporting a new lid. We were joking about that earlier this morning.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult because he's going to have to do it each of the next 2 times as well, where he's going to be towards where that second and third pack were in terms of running order. then we'll have to fight to be able to go on through. Looks like he's making some adjustments right now to the car with the radiator to his right. But it's for today. Can you get yourself a good spot for the green flag, get yourself a couple spots, and then hold on at least to the main pack to where then you have the corner speed really take advantage? I think Vasquez Jr. as an overall driver has the speed to be able to contend with the leaders. He was amongst the top 5 fastest drivers and fastest laps for a reason yesterday in heat number 1. Now it's the matter of getting the track position to show you can get that speed and get some position in the heat races.
How about this guy as well that's on our screens now, Jose Carlos Hernandez, one of the names that's become a household name whenever we do go to any race of 100cc categories. Jose Carlos, was living over in Mexico last year, would travel over here very often to race with Orsilon Racing, with Fabio and his entire operation, leading the front for the senior drivers. And then the call came from Jonathan Monge, and for them to put this entire program together in such a short time with a full 10. And it's been a great turnaround for that entire Red Speed camp to get that operation rolling. Oh, as we have contact on the back straightaway. Taylor Roddy almost goes up and over. He's not happy, but just pushing the limits a little too much, hit that outside barrier. And that's what we talked about, right? You have that Supernats effect here this weekend with the temporary barriers that are permanent here. And again, you see it there, just it looks like the rim is hanging out. But unfortunate there, not sure, I think that's part of the barrier actually. Yeah, indeed. So unfortunate for Roddy, unfortunate end to his session. But again, we are going to our members-only stream. That's it for warm-up action. That's it for the free coverage. For myself, Caleb Vieska, Justin Prince alongside me. We'll see you guys on the other side.